Okay, so we had an example for the case where you had a kitchen scale or kitchen balance. These are alternatives. Say you don't have turmeric, you might have some food coloring, you may not have these glasses, you can use things like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by just making myself a cup of tea, and then we'll let that steep during the time that we're doing some of the other things. So I've got a red dye, a yellow dye, I've got a standardized volume dispenser, I've got an uncalibrated, unstandardized spoon, and then in the last case we'll just do it by eye. So I'm just going to take the caps off those. I'm going to use just a little bit of my red dye. Remember, we're working in arbitrary units. And so after we've diluted that, we'll say there's 1 AWS unit worth of colorant in there. And then this is the yellow. I'm getting a little bit of this on my fingers. So there's some yellow. Okay, then the last one is I've got a container for putting my tea in, and just to keep from shattering the glass, I'm just going to put some cold water in there. And I don't want a super strong cup of tea. All right, so I'm going to take the tea bag out. And so this now has a colored solution. It's not particularly dark, but it'll do the job. And then I'm just going to dilute this into here. And that's what we're going to use for our subsequent tea experiment. I'm going to shake this around. And then I'm just going to top these ones up with a bit of water. And each one of those now has an AWS. There's an AWS unit worth of tea colorant in there. There's 1 AWS unit worth of yellow in there. And we've got 1 AWS unit worth of red in there. Okay, so to do this, all I need to do is then dispense 3 to 1 measured amount in terms of volume into those, and then 3 to 1 spoons of this. And in the last case, I'll try to set the level 3 to 1, and then top them up to the same level. Okay, so let's see if I can get this right. There's 1. There's 2. There's 3. Okay, and we're going to do 2. There's 2 in there. And then we've got 1 in here. Okay, so that one is done. Okay, that's what you can do if you have a sort of a standardized volume measuring device. The next one is, what are we going to do in the case where we just have a spoon? Well, I'm just going to put a spoonful. There's 1. This is not going to be perfect, of course. 2 and 3. 1. 2. Did I put in 3? Oh no, I'm going to have to tip that one out. I will be right back. I'll put that one off to the side. I lost count. 1 and 2. And then I'll put 1 in here. And then forgive me while I quickly run over and rinse out my glass. So we've got 3, 2, 1. Okay, the last part, this is probably the hardest of the experiments because you're doing it all by eye. So in this one, I'm just going to try to put perhaps 3/4 full. There we go. This one's going to be about half full. And then this one's going to be maybe 1/4 full. No, a bit of a look at that. Does that look about right? Yeah, that's probably good enough. Okay, once I've done that, I now want to fill them. The part that's important is that they all come to the same height, because then they've been diluted into the same amount. In this case, if you really had lots of time, so it's harder to do this than it is by volume, you can fill these up, and then you can try to figure out how many of these forms a full cup, and that way you get your perfect dilutions done, at least by volume. I think you'll get a little bit frustrated trying to figure out how many of these fill this, and then because of the non-uniformity of the glass. But at least when you're doing the analysis, it should show quantitative results. Okay, I'm going to fill all of these to the top. Okay, and then I'm going to try to fill these to a uniform height. So roughly halfway up. Trying to go for roughly the widest part of the glass. And I might have to get a little bit more water to complete this. A little bit more. Let's see, I think I need a tiny bit more on that one. Okay, we got them about the right height, I think so. Okay, now I'm going to try to maybe do this a little bit more carefully. I'm going to try to fill it to roughly the neck of the colorant. How have I done? Actually, that's not bad. Okay, so we've done all of our dilutions, and then so now what we can do is we can set these all together, and we can take a picture of all of them at the same time, and then that will allow you to do one of these quantitative Beer's law plots, right, once we've taken the picture. So we're going to have, for each one of these, we'll have a 0, a high, and then 2 in between, and we'll see how good we are at creating a straight line. I'm going to move these that we did before over into the same field, and this will give you some practice on doing the image analysis. Remember that this one is our unknown. This is 3, 2, unknown, 0, 3, 2, 1, 0, 3, 2, 1, 0, 3, 2, 1, 0. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this, try to get them all in the view, and then from roughly that position, take a picture. Okay, so hopefully what you've seen is a set of experiments that you can do in your kitchen. They will give you some quantitative results once we process the images. You can do this anywhere in the world, and when you're done with it, I believe you should have as much understanding of how a spectrophotometer works than many of my students when they finished with either a bachelor's or a master's. It's not that we didn't teach them this, it's just more that until you've processed I naught, transmittance, absorbance, calibration curve, using the raw data, it's very easy to forget this last step. So where you're doing the conversions. It's a relatively simple set of mathematics and behavior, but it's just easy to forget it if you haven't practiced it. So with that, I hope you've enjoyed the experiment. You want to look online for the materials that will help you process this data. Thank you very much.